Our garden gets a lot of use, and some of the high traffic areas are starting to show a lot of wear and tear on our lawn. In this area we've got access to the greenhouse and the washing line cutting across the lawn, so the grass here is getting worn down quite a lot. You can see bald patches starting to form, we're getting scabby muddy bits, and even with a hard wearing lawn mix I think this would still continue. So today I'm going to be installing some stepping stones. The first step in any project like this is laying things out so you can get an idea of how it's going to look in your garden. Now and again, take as far a step back as you can so you can get an idea of what things really look like. Then walk the path, make sure that spacing is all good, and finally invite other users of the space to walk it as well so you can get their input on things. Here's my mum. Then for accuracy, it's a good idea to take a ruler or other marker so that you can just make sure that those stones are perfectly spaced. Remember, once they're in the ground, it's going to be a pain to move them, so you want to get it right the first time. Pretty happy with the shape. We've got a nice curve rolling round. Got my lawn edging spade. I'm just going to work around where stone is. This was the first stone I did, and you can see I'm working that spade right up against the stone. It's actually better to be slightly further out than this, about 3 centimeters or so. That way it's much easier to move the stone in and out of the hole when you're adjusting it. Now you can just about see the outline. So then all you want to do is go back round that same circular line you just cut with your turf spade, and this time lever up the turf as you go. It should come away quite easily. Once you've gone around the perimeter, work your way across the circle and again lever it up. You should be able to get the circle out in semicircles, or you might need to cut it across one more time and remove it in quarters. And that's it, that's your turf removed. Okay, we've cut a lovely circle into the turf. Now I just need to excavate a little bit more, break this up, rake this out so that I get a nice flat surface. As well as levelling out your hole, at this stage you want to make sure that your hole is deep enough. It needs to be able to accommodate not just the depth of the stone, but also about 20 millimeters of sand that you're going to put underneath. If you don't make your hole deep enough, you risk having your lawnmower chip the top of your stone when you mow your lawn, and you also increase the risk of accidents, as people could trip over that stone if it's not flush with the ground. When you think your hole is deep enough, it's time to start adding your layer of sand. You want to start out with about 10 mil and then go from there. Lay your stone on top. You can see I'm struggling a bit here because my hole is so narrow. And then get out a spirit level and have a general idea of how wonky your stone is. This can be difficult if, like mine, your stone has ridges, so just get an overall idea. There is one way to really test how wonky a stone is. Get on top and have a good rock back and forth. If it still doesn't feel level, just lift up your stone, add more sand, level things out, replace the stone, check for the spirit level, and repeat these steps as many times as necessary until you're happy with the level of your stone. Don't worry too much about it being perfectly level, as water will need to run off it anyway. The final step is just adding a few more handfuls of sand to fill in the gap between the edge of the turf and the hole that you've cut. Just take a few handfuls of sand, scrape them over and smooth them into that gap. When you've done all that, it's a good idea to get on top and give it one last little wiggle so you can make sure that your stone is settled in fully. And there we are, that's our stones all set in. Now all that's left to do is walk the path, admire our handiwork, And just keep an eye on things. You might notice over the next few days, as those stones do settle in, that a small sort of crack appears between the stone and the sand. This is totally normal and is just caused by the ground contracting and expanding based on weather conditions and how damp the soil is. You can always add in more sand if you feel like the stones need it. It's been about a month now since I installed these and they've held up great. I love being able to stand on them as I hang out my laundry or make my way down to the greenhouse. It's much nicer to look at than a balding patch of lawn. I hope that you found this tutorial useful. I'm not an expert by any means, but I do like doing these little DIY projects just to add an extra something special to my garden space. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, happy gardening. Bye!